We're getting ready to talk about a story that came up and it was quite a bit disturbing. And this actually happened a while ago, but we finally got a verdict on this story. So a pregnant mother and her boyfriend, as you guys can see on the screen, they were accused at the time of severely beating that woman's 4-year-old son by the name of Tahjir Smith. And keep in mind, guys, he was 4 years old. They beat him and scalded him in a shower until he died as punishment. Why? Again, this is over food. Did you guys watch my last video? We're almost at 5,000 views on my last video. That happened over a can of ravioli. This is starting to be a ridiculous trend. This happened over a bowl of cereal. How many of you guys can believe how crazy this is? Again, the mother's name right here on the screen, that is Lisa Smith. This broad is only 19 years old. And of course, this didn't happen with her baby's father. This did not happen with the biological father. This happened with a thug that she loved by the name of Keiff King. He was 26 years old. That is her boyfriend who participated, if not caused the majority of this to happen. 26 years old. And this happened in Willow Grove near Philadelphia. And they were arrested at the time after they called 911 saying that the little boy, 4-year-old Tahjir, was unconscious. Okay. Now, police said now we're going to go in a little bit in reverse so I can tell you guys the story because this is an old story, but we're going to try to get you guys updated and tell you what happened as far as the verdict. Now, police said that the little boy spilled food. In this case, it was cereal. Smith and King decided to punish the boy by punching him in the back of the head. That's supposed to be punishment. Punched him in the back of the head and stripped him naked from the waist down and using a sandal, a shoe, to smack him on his rear end. When he urinated on himself, they then put him in the shower and turned on the hot water and scalded him until he was unresponsive. Did you guys hear that? Thank you, 318 Showtime, for that. Appreciate that. They scalded him in a hot shower until he passed out and was unresponsive. And then on that Tuesday, they were charged with attempted first-degree murder and aggravated assault. Just this real quick. Aggravated assault, child endangerment, and related offenses. And they could face murder charges when the autopsy of the boy is complete, which obviously we're looking in hindsight. So we'll get to what actually they got finally convicted with. Now, after Tahjir spilled his cereal, Smith, the boyfriend, this fool, confronted him. And the little boy began to stutter, which often happened when he was scared. That's a 4-year-old little boy. Why is he having to live his life in fear of mom's boyfriend? Why would mom put her son's life in jeopardy over a boyfriend, right? Okay, now, he admitted to the accident, prompting the start of the alleged abuse. King punched and struck the boy in the back of the head. And I want you guys to understand, punching an adult in the back of the head could kill an adult, could knock out an adult, could cause an adult to go into a seizure, go into a coma. So imagine what punching a 4-year-old boy in the back of the head at full force could cause damage on this little boy. These babies' bodies aren't built for this type of damage, okay? Now, the assault was so severe that the youngster urinated on himself and became unconscious. King then placed him in the shower and blasted him with cold water and then scalding hot water. That's what he told police. When Tahjir was still unresponsive after the shower, Smith said he wanted to call 911, but King told her he is still breathing. He is cool. He is still up, according to documents. Then Smith told police she watched Tahjir's eyes roll back and his mouth open. King dressed Tahjir and the couple took him outside and they called 911. This is in the face of domestic violence, and the preschooler was beaten until he stopped breathing because he spilled cereal. Jesus. When emergency services arrived, they made the pair made up a story as if to why the boy wasn't responsive. Police said that when they entered the home, they found it in deplorable condition. As you guys know, that means it was stinky, nasty, filthy, dirty, and probably had bugs all over the damn place. And it was crawling with roaches. Yikes. According to the coroner, the child had previous injuries, including, think about this. He had previous injuries. A 4-year-old boy, a baby, had broken ribs. Unfortunately, it looks like the child didn't go through this for the first time, Steele said. And it's going to be our time to stand up for a child who can't speak for himself anymore. Doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like what I talk about on here all the time? Now, here's the update. Here's the update on these two fools right here. Mother and boyfriend. How many times have I told you guys about this narrative? These men will never care about these children the way that they care for their own. That's why it is dangerous for these mothers to continue to put these children in these life-threatening situations. So shout out to the judge who decided to give them the harshest penalty almost possible. The Willow Grove couple who beat the 4-year-old boy to death because he spilled cereal are on their way to state prison, where they'll spend the rest of their lives. Can we get a hand clap in the chat for the judge and everybody that participated in getting these people convicted? It's the least they could do, man. That's not going to bring the little boy back, but at least they got the proper punishment for what they did. Now, Montgomery County Judge Risa Furman told Keiff King, and don't confuse that name with Chief Keef, but Keiff King, what he and Lisa Smith did to that 4-year-old Tahjir Smith is the stuff horror movies are made of. And the judge told Smith told the mother her actions made the last few months of her own son's life a torture chamber. She sentenced 27-year-old King and 20-year-old Smith each to life in prison, along with an additional 15 to 30 years behind bars. Damn. Lock them up, throw away the key. I agree. And I also want you guys to notice that this woman was actually pregnant. Smith was pregnant at the time when she was arrested. She was like 6 or 8 months pregnant, somewhere around there. I just thought I'd throw that out there in case you guys did not know that, okay? Now, Prosecutor Ed McCann said Smith's own words showed how terrified the boy was of his own mother. This chick, and I want you guys to remember those photos because that's the type of photos these chicks take all the time. They care more about themselves, more about the things that they can get, and they only have these children for the benefits that they can collect. What is our hashtag here in the AFC? Babies for benefits. He spills his cereal and he's so afraid. He's running away and he's just stuttering about when he's confronted about it, and he urinates on himself. That just speaks to the kind of fear he was in at this point, McCann said. Smith's attorney detailed the abuse she suffered when she was a child, saying she got pregnant with Tahjir when she was sexually assaulted when she was 13 years old. This is why I hate excuses. They tried to get this woman off on a light sentence, and I'm glad they didn't. Like, I know that's what attorneys do, but I'm so glad that these excuses are starting to get thrown away in the trash can where they need to be. These excuses for human beings, for adults, if you allow these people to make these decisions and say, I want you guys to understand this, before anybody gets mad about what I said. If she was so traumatized, if the mother was so what do you call it? Traumatized? I said traumatized. We're going to make that a new word for tonight. If the mother was so traumatized by what happened to her at age 13, then she should not have been allowed to be a parent and get pregnant thereafter. Because if she was so traumatized, and I know that might not be a word, but we're going to use it for now because I can't think of the real damn word. But if she was that traumatized and if she was not in the shape that she needed to be in order to have the correct mental capacity to take care of a child, then she should not have been allowed to have custody of this one, and she should not have been allowed to get pregnant thereafter. Okay? Now, Furman noted adults completely failed her, and this is the collateral damage of child abuse, and many people have Tahjir's blood on their hands. At the trial, the medical examiner testifies the injuries Tahjir suffered from being beaten by a flip-flop by Smith and King were similar to injuries people suffer in building collapses. Jesus, damn. He also had scars on his back from being hit by a belt and previous rib fractures from being squeezed. Now, again, we're going to wrap this up really, really quick. I'm going to show you guys these news stories. Let me give you guys the fair usage and let you guys hear what happened in the trial. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. Traumatized. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for, son. Like, I made up a new word, but it's all good. Let's keep this thing going, and then we'll wrap up here pretty quick. So if you guys need to say anything about this, or if you guys want to know what's going on, just listen to these videos. It'll tell you everything about what happened. This is the trial. Or the ending of it, I should say. They're going to turn the audio back on here in a moment.
Well, so we know he had drag marks on his back, burned, basically rug burns. He had marks on his back, scars from being hit with a belt. He had black eyes. He had multiple broken ribs, 11, and it all told.
11 broken ribs? Did y'all hear that? Damn. Oh, the chat's not moving. Thank you, Miss June Bennett.
Back scars from being hit with a belt. He had black eyes. He had multiple broken ribs, 11, and it all told. Our medical examiner, the expert, testified that he believed that clearly happened in multiple incidents. Evidence at the trial of people that testified about what kind of kid he was. That he was a good kid, he was a happy kid. And here we have evidence on the last day from defendant Smith's own mouth that he spills his cereal and he's so afraid that he's running away and he's stuttering about it when he's confronted about it, and he urinates on himself. That just speaks of the kind of fear that he was in at this point. And that was also testified to by other members of the family leading up to that. In the summer of 2017 on, when he was away from them, he was fine. When he was with them, he was not.
Anything you want to hear from the judge, Mr. King?
So the whole notion of, and something that really stuck with me always, and we talked about that multiple times when we were getting the case ready, the fact that they turned this 4-year-old boy, who by all accounts was such a bright, beautiful little kid, into somebody who would stutter out of fear of his mom and her boyfriend. It just showed what kind of emotional abuse that he was also enduring during the same period of time. So, I mean, it was horrific what this kid had to endure, and I think that's why it was important for us to advocate that there be a consecutive sentence for the endangering the welfare of a child charge.
Do you have any reaction to the sentence, Mr. King? Any reaction to the consecutive to the life term? Any reaction to the sentence, Ms. Smith? Do you have anything?
What happened? They say you didn't want to hear.
When he was away from them, he was fine. When he was with them, he was not. that his personality certainly changed the last months of his life, and I think that that just is so sad when you think about it. He was a kid who people cared about and loved, and was such a happy kid. Lauren and I saw videos of him playing and running and things of that nature, just months before this happened. So we know what kind of life he could have lived, and that makes us even sadder, I think.
Golly, man. I did not, boy.
And now, new at 10 o'clock, a jury has convicted a couple in the beating death of a 4-year-old boy over spilled cereal. That verdict coming down late tonight in Montgomery County. Keiff King and Lisa Smith beat Smith's son, Tahjir, after he spilled the food at their home in Willow Grove in January of 2018. They will be sentenced later this year. And now, new at 10 o'clock.
All right, let me go ahead and move on to this next video. Okay, this is the last video right here. Again, thank you to everybody that's already clicked the thumbs up. So if you would, when you guys come in, just click the thumbs up, okay? If you would, thank you.
Investigators described living conditions inside this home on the 1800 block of Lukens Avenue in Willow Grove as deplorable.
There were insects and roaches in the house.
But even more despicable is the alleged abuse that went on inside, according to Montgomery County District Attorney Kevin Steele, who was visibly emotional during a Friday press conference.
This was a violent, sustained beating of a 4-year-old that caused his death.
Prosecutors say after admitting to spilling his cereal on the morning of January 22nd, 4-year-old Tahjir Smith died from a brutal beating at the hands of his own mother, 19-year-old Lisa Smith, and her 26-year-old boyfriend, Keiff King.
Someone who would do that is an animal. To do that to your child or to do that to anybody but your own child and allowed someone to do that to your child, it's just unthinkable.
Charlie Evans says he has lived in this neighborhood for 50 years and would see the boy playing from time to time.
Still, after all these months, still shock and disbelief that this little boy had to go through that torture, and none of us could see or understand that it was even happening.
A forensic pathologist found the 4-year-old died of multiple blunt and thermal injuries and shock after reportedly being forced to hold a push-up position for a long period of time. When he couldn't, prosecutors say his mother and her boyfriend hit him on the head and struck his body repeatedly with a sandal.
Striking his body so hard that there were pattern imprints on the boy's buttocks when the police were finally called.
King also admitted to throwing the boy under a scalding shower, which an expert later discovered burned the boy's shoulder. Authorities say the autopsy also revealed old rib fractures, indicating this deadly beating was not the first.
Look, guys, I'm going to tell you guys like this. And again, thank you guys so much for showing up here. That's practically the end of this story. And God, it's so sad. And I know that this came out a while ago, but I wanted to speak on this because like I told you guys, a lot of what we like to do is it's not only to speak for the children when they can't speak for themselves. And this little boy clearly cannot defend himself. He was scared, and no child deserves to be scared like this. I mean, women, to the mothers, if you guys have the power, then you also have to use that power responsibly and not put your children in danger. Do not put your children around dangerous people. It's not right just because you have the ability. But matter of fact, I wish I could show you guys a story where a father actually won custody from the mother, and he was so happy. It was a thug looking dude, believe it or not. But he broke down and he was on his knees waiting for his daughter to walk to him, and he hugged and loved his daughter, and he was just so happy to get custody of her and really just to kind of get a new lease on life and just be able to take care of his baby. But generally the biological fathers will care a lot more than these men who are not the biological fathers. I'm showing you guys this to be a trend, and this has been a thing that's been talked about in statistics. But if I visually show you guys this is what's going on, then we have to start taking heed. I want to wish an RIP to that little boy, Tahjir Smith. He was only 4 years old. He cannot speak for himself. He could not defend himself. And it's very sad what Keiff King did. The boyfriend, not the biological father. As a matter of fact, if you guys want to, if you guys know about who the biological father is, or if he's even out there, or anything like that, I mean, he can feel free to reach out to me. If any family members, or for any story that I do want to reach out to me, then I'd be happy to speak with them in email. And if they want to, be able to reach out, then I would love to hear how we even got to this point. It's very sad. And like I said, man, you know, if Lisa Smith is going to be given the excuse, well, you know, this is what happened in her early life, she was traumatized or whatever the case is, then like I say, if these people have mental issues, if they're traumatized, if they're going through postpartum depression or anything like that, then in my opinion, those people should not be automatically given custody of the children. Especially when these custody battles happen, especially when these child support orders are given. Not only should the biological fathers, if you're going to take half of their money from their checks, then I think that they should automatically be granted half of visitation every single month. To me, that's fair. If you're going to take a man's paycheck, then allow that man to at least have custody of the thing that he's paying for. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. So the man has to beg for access to his biological kid, but a boyfriend can have unmolested access to this kid that he don't pay jack shit for. Thought I'd throw that out there. This is another sad story. Cautionary tale for my ladies. Shout out to my ladies that do the right thing and believe the right thing, and to all the women that do the right thing. But we have to change our mentality. This is a trend, and this is a continuing situation because of the fact that we refuse to change our mentality and how we think about fathers and how we value families and how we value our children. Their voices matter. They cannot speak for themselves. They cannot defend themselves, and they depend on us as parents and as caretakers for every single thing that they get. And we have to show respect to the children first. Remember, I said this. Respect reciprocates. Give the children respect first. It will reciprocate. Thank you guys so much for listening to the stream. This is your boy DJ Just Jay. I'm signing out, man. You guys know what my email address is. If you guys want me to take a look at any stories, email address is right here, thesotopodcast@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much. That's the end of the stream, man.